We rather lie in this bitch.
Yo, what's goody, family? Welcome to the Devil's Advocate with Ace Anderson and Akron Watson, where we're making the best case for the guiltiest pleasure. Get the fuck out of here.
Niggas when she said, man,
Wow.
she wanted to be abstinent. Yeah, and we already together.
I think that's a
Man,
sign,
ask
nigga.
anybody. There are no benefits to abstinence.
Yo. Oh shit. Oh shit. What's up, y'all? Am I here? What? Oh, there we go. What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Ace Anderson and Akron Watson, and we're here for another episode of The Devil's Advocate. Yes. We're back. Ak, you got a haircut.
Good, it's good.
How you feeling, man?
Shoot, right now, man. Physically, I'm at like 60%, 67%.
What's contributing to that?
Sleep and general like anxieties and yeah, I think not going to the doctor, not having a checkup as of yet could also be contributing to it because I don't even really know why
Mm.
why I'm not feeling 100% yet. So having a checkup would also be good.
Word.
But that's where I'm at. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. Just trucking along, doing these little auditions here and there, and making monologues every day. I still gotta post one today. Um, but I saw you released a song, bro, today. That shit was fire.
Thanks, man. Thank you, bro. Appreciate that.
How
Yeah.
did that feel?
Um, you know, anytime I release anything that isn't conscious, then I always feel like I'm not doing something.
Hmm.
That there's a responsibility that I'm not handling, like I'm not tackling issues, or I'm not being responsible with my words enough. Um, because it's like I can't say anything or everything because people are watching and people have needs.
Hmm.
So it essentially just kind of felt like fuck it. It really just kind of felt like fuck it. Fuck everybody's what people will say about it or opinions. Um, it felt very much like a commitment to something that I wanted to do versus a commitment to something that I was actually doing. Does that make sense? Like, I don't really feel like I accomplished anything with the song per se.
Hmm.
Like starting something that I said that I would do.
Word.
I enjoyed it. I think it was fun, and I accomplished what I wanted to, sort of with the song. I have goals though for like most of the songs. So
Hmm.
this one was supposed to be like a TikTok dance
Hmm.
that I'd like to go back and develop at some point. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Dope, man.
I like fuck it, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I was looking on the comments and shit. People saying that shit was fire, and I thought it was fire too. I'm like just excited to hear your sound. That's what I'm kind of hype about. Just hear what type of music does Akron Watson make. And so as I watch you release new music, like even when you released Distracted, I was pleasantly surprised by the type of content that you were creating. And so it just kind of opened me up because the songs that the songs that you had released last year weren't like the songs that we had created when we first got together. And so that was really nice to hear you singing, like you just kind of showing your versatility. And then I would say that that TikTok, what is it? TikTok Juice is the name of the song. Yeah, this song uh didn't feel like the songs that you released last year. So I'm excited to, like, as you release more music, hearing the scope of sounds that you're capable of creating. Because there is some rap, and I feel like with this album, you didn't get to the album that we released together, you didn't get to show off all of your singing ability. You showed off much more of your rapping ability. And same thing, like this TikTok Juice song was kind of like in the middle of all of that. So I'm just like, I'm really excited to see, because you're on that like Masego, you can sing, um uh but like with the Childish Gambino aspect where you can definitely rap. You hold your own as a rapper, and if you just did one, people would truly think that you just did that. So uh I'm really excited about hearing more stuff from you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about tomorrow's song for sure. It's not complete, but like last night, I'm gonna drop the song as soon as it's done, and as soon as I can get it out. After we get off the call, tonight, I'll do some more recording, and that's kind of how I've been doing it. I just wake up and tackle it as soon as I want to. I don't schedule it or anything like that. It's really more priorities than like most things during my day, because I want to get it done. But yo, man, I think with music, it's for me, it's been about experimentation. And last year, what I was doing was I was investing in Chicago's community, or the year before and last year, I was investing in Chicago's community artistically, because they were supporting me. So I was there, being Aaron Burr and Hamilton, and so in turn, I was like buying into the contemporary art and buying into music, and I was literally buying songs. And so Distracted and two other songs from that release, is like a 7-song release. I think 3 songs, maybe even 4, were written and composed by Chicago artists,
Mm.
by a Chicago R&B singer, composed by Chicago producer. So it was just all like reinvesting in that community, and so that's why the sounds different. Is because I wanted to be supportive of what they were doing, at the same time help myself. And because I performed Distracted and some of those other songs at like Lollapalooza, which is like a huge music festival that happens every year in Chicago. And just to be able to even perform at Lollapalooza is crazy. But the fact that I was able to do it, and it was my music slash a Chicago artist music that I was putting on, that was dope, man. But I think like with you, for instance, it's gonna change, man. Those sounds are gonna change, because it's like I'm in a different groove, and I'm always trying to be like present. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so whatever's happening at the moment is how I want to be affected. I'm not trying to force a message out
Yeah.
with my music. I feel like it comes from inspiration, and if I'm not inspired for a message, well, I think not being inspired right now with a message is a testament to like the 24-hour news cycle. It's just like we're shoved into so much news that,
Mm.
man, we just right now, I feel like people just want to have a good time. You know what I'm saying? They just want, like, I don't want to talk about COVID. I don't want to talk about the economy. I just want, I want to talk like I'm in the club, even if I'm not at the club.
Right.
So, so that's what I've been waking up and feeling. It's like, oh man, I want to groove. Oh man, I want to love. I want to fuck. I want to, I I want to live my life. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about COVID right now in my music just yet. But it could come tomorrow. It could come tomorrow morning.
Word. Well, that's the good thing about music. It could be whatever inspires you in that moment can
Mm-hmm.
make its way into it, you know?
Yo, man. Yo. I mean, we're artists, So like I look at us like painters, and we get an opportunity to collab with other artists, um, and make art shit. And so I don't care. I don't really have an Akron sound. People are like, what kind of music, man? I'm like, whatever I'm feeling. That could be anything.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm excited to hear more of your music because I know that you're capable of doing so many different styles and different genres, and especially with your background as an actor and as a musician, as a like just making music. Um, I, I'm sure just every walk of life has inspired some sound that comes from you, and so I'm excited to hear like a larger library of music from you and be like, oh, okay, Akron has this sound. You can kind of take the common denominator from everything that you've placed, everything that you've done, and we can start to see what that aura is. I'm actually interested to hear that from myself too. My plan is to start releasing some music after I get through with this monologue thing. And so I'm excited to just, what do I even sound like? What kind of music do I make? I have no idea. I don't even know what you really categorize. I know it's hip hop and there's rap elements, but I feel like there's something deeper than that. And so as I force myself to make a song every day, I'm gonna start to see like what sounds I gravitate towards and like take the rules. I'm excited to like throw the rules away, throw the rule book away. Just as long as it's a song, as long as it repeats itself in a way that you can call it music, and I can put it out, then it's like it's done. So I don't need to worry about if it sounds like a Grammy award winning thing. Like that doesn't matter. I want it to just be a sound that I'm happy with, put it up. And then from that, after 30 days after that, I can look back and say, okay, this is kind of what I sound like. So yeah, this is I'm just excited, man, just to be able to put out shit, man. I feel like us as a community, Black people as a community, we're too much on the consumer side. We're not on the producer side. We need to be on the producing. Let's make it happen. Let's put it out. Let's be the writers. Let's show ourselves to be the writers and the creators of this content. And then as history has proven time and time again, the money will show up from, like, people will want to throw money at that authenticity. That's why we've been getting, our content has been appropriated for hundreds of years, thousands of years, right? That people have been taking our stuff that we've created originally, but because we're not producers, we don't have the production mentality, we don't have the we don't have that sort of conquering mentality, I guess an empire state of mind, so to speak, that we end up just taking other people's content. We're good at saying what's good for other people, like we can tell other people what's good, but then we end up not being able to see within ourselves what's good, what content is appropriate, and what content is valuable to society. So I'm excited for us to be able to do this. I hope that we, in our journeys of creating content every day, inspire other people that look like us to create content every day and put stuff out and be producers, man. Stop consuming. I think when money comes into our community, I think it stays within our community. It touches three other hands. I think in I don't have the proper statistics, but when money goes into other communities, for instance, like the Jewish community or the Latin community, it touches their hands it 20 times before it leaves their community. It recycles and goes through different people in their community. But Black people as consumers, we consume everyone else's communities, right? We consume all of this other art from all these other places in every industry, and we don't keep the money within our community, and you see it as our communities begin to suffer, and then gentrification happens, and it just kind of displaces us, because we have this consumer mentality and not a producer mentality. And that kind of brings us into the topic this week about homelessness, and um and how it is affecting the world. I mean, what was your sort of what was your reasoning for wanting to talk about homelessness this week? Like, what's been on your mind, on your heart?
Well, I mean, you know, uh, if you look outside, if you just go outside, homelessness has probably gotten closer to you than it has been in years. Like it was like homelessness was something that we saw on the sides of freeways. It was not something that we saw in our neighborhoods. It was something that we saw like downtown. You know, it wasn't something that we saw like at the local bus station. It was the thing that we saw at the central bus station. Um, but as it gets closer and closer to our homes, I'm just paying attention, and I think that it is our lack of attention as a nationwide, at least, community, uh, that homelessness is allowed to thrive because we aren't paying attention enough. We aren't watching, um, and then I think that we are ashamed
Mm,
of it, and I don't think that we have any need to be, because the truth of it is still the same truth of most things in our country, which is capitalism overall,
mm,
profit above all. Um, and so, really, it's just about structures. You know, when you say that about like Black communities and being consumers, um, it it always strikes me as odd that like we don't own the building that we are working out of,
mm,
that we are only allowed to rent space. But those structures usually come from old systems,
mm,
ways of money. If you talk about homelessness, in that way, in that structure, then like at one point, homeless people were these people. They were young men who couldn't find work, but then it became whole families, or it was men and women, and then it was men, women, and children, and whole families. And that development came from a lack of certain structures. There were certain things that just weren't in place, or they were only in place in words. They were only things that we said we were going to do. Um, if you watch old movies, for instance, like not even old movies, but like movies about the 40s and 50s, for instance, um, and you think about what was that movie Shutter Island? You've seen Shutter Island?
yeah.
You know, we used to throw people who were mentally ill away. We used to just throw them
Mm,
away. We didn't know what to do with them. Science wasn't as it just wasn't. We weren't as smart. And
mm-hmm,
so we throw our sick people away, our mentally ill people away. And when we stopped doing that, when we started saying, "Oh, let's get them back in the community, let's funnel them back in," and we closed a lot of those places, that money that was state money was supposed to go into helping people, and it didn't.
mm,
So at a time when we as a country started to try to face our shame, what we instead did was just like we we put a nice shirt. You know, it's that
mm,
family member that you bring in and you say, I took him off the street.
but it's not enough that you just gave him a roof.
Mm-hmm.
He needs 24-hour help,
Mm.
mentally, physically, emotionally. He needs simple things like just to go to the Social Security office and not have too much anxiety to get through 2 hours worth of something,
Mm.
and to not have that structure in place, but for those people to be volunteers, rather than that being something that is, this person's mentally ill. We found out, boom, and it's not mandatory that this person be helped. That part is not mandatory. The part that is mandatory is that that person stay in line with law enforcement, or they gonna get locked up.
Mm.
That's what's mandatory, is that the person stay within lawful. And so it's almost like we need to reimagine how we look at each other, because in this country, a run of bad luck. And I was just watching this movie called The Advocate, which is funny because our show is called The Devil's Advocate. But basically, if you run out of advocates, if you run out of people to advocate for you, which is very easy to do in this country, and you have a string of bad luck, you're screwed. And I think that the reason I brought this topic up is there are millions of people who are just screwed. You know what I mean? Like, to think that like not just 100, not just 1,000, but millions of people in this country are just screwed because they have had a run of bad luck. They don't have anyone that they can turn to personally or professionally, or romantically, and they, statistics say, and this was in 2018, but 30% of them have mental illness.
Mm.
That 30% of a million people, just 1 million, 30% of a million people is what, 300,000 people.
30,000, yeah, isn't it, or 300,000?
I think it's 300,000. I think 3% is 3% is 30,000 in a million scenario, because 0.5% would
Wow.
be 500,000. So to say 30% would be 300,000 people with mental illness who we have no responsibility to. We have taken no responsibility to. Right here, man, in LA is one of the biggest problems in the world.
Mm.
Skid Row, right down the street from my house. I live in downtown LA. I live on 8th and Hope. And just like 5 streets that way is one of the largest homeless communities in the world. And in 2016, 5 years ago, we said as a city, I just moved here in September, but I'm going to say we said as a city, Los Angeles said as a city, we are going to stop homelessness in 10 years.
Wow.
We came up with a plan. And doing further research, Los Angeles is not the first city to say this and not the first city to come up with this kind of plan. But plans like this lack 2 things, is consistency and money.
Mm.
The 2 things you fucking need to make something work
Mm.
is consistency and the funds to do it. Like, literally,
Capital. Yeah.
yeah, they just come up with big words and they come up with great speeches, and then they go as far as to get, in 2016, laws were enacted, stuff was put in place, but there was no actual tangible money attached to it. And so I think that for years people have been coming up with really big ideas for homelessness, or they have been coming up with grassroots, on the ground ideas. And one of them has funding. Grassroots always has funding because it's coming out of people's pocket. When a person turns a corner in Los Angeles and realizes that there's a Skid Row hiding and they got time to do something about it, they do it. That one person, that 2 people, they may show up every Friday or whatever, and I could go through a list of places that I found out that are in operation, full operation, even through the pandemic, to help the homeless.
but those are still not enough because the big ideas to like solve it as a whole lack the manpower and the money. They're just there, but they're there though. I promise you can probably Google in Dallas. There's like some law in place. Homelessness will end in 2025,
Mhm.
and when it doesn't, it's no one's gonna say anything. Like it's not gonna be like, dang, didn't solve it again. You know, it's not gonna be that. And it's a spiral of a problem. The same way that it's interesting that it deals so deeply with mental health because it is a spiral of a problem just as much as depression is,
Mm.
where you have episodes of people um, being displaced, huge episodes of people like you mentioned gentrification, people being displaced because they're being bid out of their homes. A new us. I'm just gonna say it, us coming into to the baby boomer communities of downtown. Me moving in downtown and
Mm.
saying I'll pay $4,000 a month, and he can't. And just because you refurbish this building, I'm down. And
Mm.
and he has been making the same wages for the last 15, 20 years, and he's only 15 or 20 years older than me.
Mm.
So the only thing that's separating us is the number of years that he's worked in this industry. But now because I'm younger, I make more money, I deserve to have his place. And then where does he go? And so the problem that another problem that exists when you talk about homelessness, I mean, I'm skipping a lot of them, but I'm just kind of going in the with the flow. But one of them is that the the job market, the amount of money people made didn't go up when rent went up.
Mm.
And it didn't go up when the prices of houses went up. So now it costs more to live, but we still make less money. We're fighting to try to get the minimum wage, and I say we. Economically, I think our country is always talking about minimum wage. You know, we're always talking about what is fair for poor people to make for their jobs. And most of the time, what we're talking about doesn't can't pay for an apartment. In the average rent in LA, speaking
Mm.
from experience, is $1,500 plus for one bedroom.
Mm.
Can't pay $1,500 in rent, making 1549 or whatever the average amount of money is to make a minimum wage. You can't even afford. The math doesn't add up.
Yeah.
That's already a problem in itself, is that you're not setting people up right off the bat. Here's what you can make graduating from high school. We already behind. And so you have families on top of families on top of families. There is a lot of hoarding that contributes to homelessness too, because in a way people build structures that they need, and then the city doesn't want them there because they're ugly. And so they
Mm.
hide them further and further, putting them in all these little shady places, these tents and cars. You got 7 cars, none of them work, and they all sitting on the street, and their families in these cars, but there's also like storage in these cars, and like, man, so it's a lot to emotionally. I think it's a lot to take in and deal with, but I also think that logically, to see the problem the same way we do with racism, the same way we do with a lot of other problems, to see the problem and know that there's a solution and just it not be happening is really frustrating for me as a citizen and as a just a earner, a person who earns, and I'm paying my taxes and thinking that the government is allocating these funds in the right way, because that's where our taxes are supposed to go, is to help people,
Right.
help the less fortunate. We're making money so that there are people who are mentally ill, there are people who are handicapped, etc., who can't work. All these different reasons. There are unskilled workers. All these different people. Our taxes are supposed to help them, and not. And we can't just point the finger at the government because we want a change that we're not enacting. We're just like, we want to see a change, and then and the government is like, okay, and then they write up something, and we're like, that looks good, and then nobody wants to say, all right, now everybody put $1.50 on that plan.
Mm.
It's that thing, man, where the pandemic happens and everybody stops working, and there's one millionaire that could buy a meal for every person in the country, and they don't. Instead, what they do is provide more jobs for everybody in the country, thinking that will bring the whole country back. When you're missing so many underprivileged, underacknowledged. We're also talking about an age demographic too, man. We're talking about a certain age demographic. There are like mostly homeless people between these ages, not so many homeless people between these other ages, and usually these people over here have experienced certain types of trauma. That's why they're homeless. These people, it's deeper than just let's get everybody jobs or let's get everybody an apartment. Let's build a structure and give everybody a roof. And the problem is a little bit deeper. Not even a little bit. The problem is deeper.
What would you say is the main remedy to this situation? Like, what's the main issue, and then how can that be rectified with some sort of a plan?
I think that, man, because I just think, like, it's that, when you watch documentaries and they ask this question and then people give an answer that is lofty, or like they give an idealistic answer, concrete. I think that is because if that idea is cultivated in other people's mind, there are so many people that can be more creative with how we handle homelessness. But it is the lack of attention that we give homelessness that is the true enemy. We don't want to pay attention to it. We want to walk by it. We want to give to it. We want to volunteer for it. We don't want to pay attention to it day in and day out until it affects us. Now, when it starts to affect us, I was talking to a friend today, and their biggest thing was, I don't want to piss off people that care about me, because when people stop, when the people who care about me go away, that's it. What's going to happen to them? That type of anxiety from a regular, I say regular, but like from a working person, can be detrimental to someone who is 2 months away from homelessness. That type of anxiety of who I have no one to turn to, and there aren't enough things in place right now for me to truly survive. So I think paying attention to conversations like this, even in the volunteering that I've been watching as I've been, doing my research, it's really about looking at somebody in the eye. It's about saying their name, recognizing someone's humanity, being able to have a conversation with someone. When was the last time that, rather than just giving to someone, you said, how are you doing? What's your name? What's going on? And just listening. Which is something that you and I have done. And I know we've both done it personally because we did it with the same person one time. There was a guy we both helped. And my mom used to help people when I was growing up. So it's never been a thing. I've never been afraid of homeless people because my mom was helping people who were suffering from homelessness, who either had a place and it was dangerous for them to be, or didn't have a place and just needed a landing zone so that they could figure their life out. my mom was doing that, so that's why that's why when you and I were like friends, and I was like, oh, this is my friend, he's homeless, I need you to let him stay with me. I gotta go do this thing. There was nothing to me.
Yeah.
Like this is what was. I thought and think that is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to pick up every homeless person off the street. I'm saying that paying attention to people. And not writing them off as drug addicts every single time. Because most of us we want to write them. We want to be like, he asking for money for drugs. Look at him. He's this and he's that. And he got this snot all over his nose or whatever. And it's like, okay. Like, just because your drug ain't crack don't mean that you're not an addict. Your addiction, whatever it is, to sex, food, whatever it is allowing you to live a normal life, and it's not allowing them to. And you not paying attention to them ain't gonna make they shit go. And so I think it's paying attention to people, and then on top of that, once we start to pay attention, making sure that our dollars, because we're already given the money, bro. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's just like the police system. We want to defund because of how it started. But what's in place now could change drastically if we really paid attention to it. It's about the citizens not just being like, all right, cool. Well, what's the new hot thing? TikTok. All right, I'm on TikTok. And how can I help homeless people with TikTok? I don't know. And I'm just gonna keep helping myself with the TikTok,
Right.
And then homeless people don't even have no phone, or when they get one, can you imagine what a homeless person must feel to know that like there are people making money off of making videos with their phone, and then they got a phone and they just if I could just figure out how to make enough for a meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we we as a society are basically we're very much like figure it out, man. Figure it out, bro. Just pull up your bootstraps. That's what this country is about. That's what they did to niggas. They let the black people go, and they was like, all right, cool, you got everything you need, right? And then here we are 50, 60, whatever, however, 100 years later, whatever, and you and I are having a conversation about black people not being producers. When we don't own any of the buildings in our neighborhoods, we don't get the same loans to have small businesses in our neighborhoods. We don't even get the same, we're not even allocated the same money to build in our own fucking neighborhoods. And then we're not represented most of the time in city, state, local government. All the people who allocate the funds, they not black. You know what I mean? And so you got people who aren't from the neighborhood policing it, controlling the allocation of funds, and people who don't really identify with this particular struggle, whatever it is, giving a damn more than the people who were born there. It's one reason that my cousin always like my cousin can always get to me, right? Because he knows that if he says something about my family, then I have to respond. We can talk about careers, money, girls all day long, but if he says something about my family, I got to be like, all right, what do I need to do? Because he knows how I was raised. But we don't look at each other like family. We don't look at each other like a community of people. We don't step off a plane in LA and be like, oh, these are my people, We step off a plane in LA and we're like, oh, these LA homeless people. Back to Dallas where the homeless people are less of a problem. You know what I mean? And that kind of thinking. And so to be honest, man, it's self-work. I think that a lot of people need to do, and I know for me, I want to dedicate just more of my time to not just volunteering, but to understanding how a bill could be passed to heal Skid Row, and to rectify a situation that's been going on for years. And here we are 5 years later, and nothing has happened, because that bill, if you look it up, was everything. It was $200 billion.
That's 2016.
Yeah. 2016, they said they were going to cure homelessness by 2026.
Wow.
Here's all the stuff that we need. And then the people on the ground floor, the people who are volunteering, the people who are showing up every Friday night and doing this, all these different things, the missions, they were like, nah, we've seen this before. This is posturing. This is voters uncomfortable with how homelessness is making them feel, needing something to make them feel better. Let's get a bill passed. That'll make us feel better. And then we don't have to think about how to actually fucking fix the problem. And, man, I don't have all the answers. I don't have the answers because I thought the answers was jobs. But I think that we can just start being honest with ourselves. Even though we live in America, we don't want to say it, but like, jobs just don't fix everything.
Facts.
They just don't. And nor does equality either. When you talk about homelessness and you talk about mental illness, what is equality? Because how can you give someone an equal share of support? And this friend, to go back to my friend conversation, they're having problems with family support. They're not receiving family support, but they got friend support. Oh, my friends talk to me all the time, and so that's my family. So I cling to my friends. So if I'm having a problem with my friends and I don't like my family, oh my God, what am I gonna do? That's her level of support. For me, I need my mama and my cousin and my sister and my homie, and that's pretty much it. I don't need a ton of support. And I low-key don't need none of y'all to agree with any of the stuff that I do. I just want you to have an open space on your floor if I fall and I need a place to lay my head. To say that every person needs the same level of support is already a problem. And we are born into a place that says that as long as you're an American, you got everything you need. That's not true. And so that I think that kind of thinking from the time we were born is already an issue. We're not. We're just a little lazy. We're a little monkey shine. We're a little like, the hospitals look good. They might not be the best in the world, but like they look like the best in the world. You know what I mean? Like our country looks good. It might not be the best on paper, but like, don't we look like the best country in the world? Let's just hide all these homeless people over here on Skid Row. And to just to put a nice little button on it, we didn't hide them. We didn't hide our homeless people. We made a plan and we didn't follow through. The same way we fucking do all the time. We made a fucking plan. We said, oh, all the people who can't afford housing can go to Skid Row. We'll make affordable housing there. And then when that got full and booked up, people stopped figuring out how to care. And so they just left all the people in Skid Row, and now Skid Row is what it is today. Yeah, originally Skid Row was just a place for really young white men to go who didn't have a lot of skills. They were factory workers and people who cotton picking people, people who worked who did manual labor, and there wasn't a lot of manual labor going around in Los Angeles because people wanted to be closer to the city for whatever reason. The city started to become more of a thing. urban areas stopped being a thing so much anymore, and so there was a big influx of single white men, honestly, and that's who made up Skid Row in like the 40s and 50s. And I'm just talking about Los Angeles. I think that a lot of other cities sort of mirror what's happened here. You get enough people who need to work. It's why jobs don't fix it, bro. You get enough people who don't all do the same job but like need work, and there's no work. And what do? We say, y'all sit over here till we figure it out, and like give y'all some like money, and y'all be all right. Y'all be all right. You know what I mean? And then TikTok rolls out. and then we don't go back and say, all right, now all the people in Skid Row need to figure TikTok out because this is the new wave. This is how people making money. And it sounds even ridiculous to say, right?
Yeah.
That I'm gonna go and teach a class on branding to people who are suffering from homelessness in Los Angeles. Like,
yeah, man, I had a strange experience, honestly. Not so much directly this situation, but I was tasked with doing a workshop in Miami for a group that is not fostering. I don't know if fostering is the right word, but I'm going to use that for lack of a better term. They are fostering young people in the LGBTQ community, and they're underprivileged. They are in a lot of ways marginalized in their communities, and I was tasked as an artist to come in and bring some, like, just help them brand, help them, teach them about how they can use their whatever resources they have to create whatever it is that they wanted to create. And showing up at the class, they said I would have about 10 people, and I only had 3. I would say even 2.5. And I had come in planning to give this entire lecture about branding yourself, and I ended up having to water it down a lot to just even get to the bare minimum of like these kids aren't thinking about social media. They're not they haven't gotten even to that place. They're thinking about where their next meal is coming from. That's why they're at this organization, right? They're at this recreation center because this is where they get food. This is where they get nourishment. This is where they have some sort of a shelter. They can't just go home and like charge their iPhone and and post 100 TikTok videos. Like they don't even have the data plan. Like, not even, what I'm saying? Like, they can't even get to that point. And so a lot of this, like you're saying, is just from lack of attention paid to these communities, because when we don't pay attention to these communities, we have no idea how to help them. We don't even know where to start to help them. It's like, you guys brought me in to give them a acting class. I mean, a branding class. Like, that's yes, but like, nah, like, like,
right? It's like, okay,
yeah. So yeah, it's very, very much I believe an intention issue. Like, just us wanting, or even needing to look at these communities. We have to pay attention. We have to look at them and see what the actual problems are, and not just assume, homelessness. You hear homelessness like, oh, they don't have a home, and like, then you start to think because we're as humans, we're empathizers. So we start to put ourselves into that place. Like, what would I need to do to have no home? And in order for me to have no home, I would have to be addicted to drugs. I would have to be, a prostitute. I'd have to be a pimp. I'd have to be doing some illegal activity. And that's why I ended up without a home. But it's so much more. There's so many more layers to it than just that. Like, and we've kind of relied on this shortcut, this empathetical shortcut, which is more pathetic than empathetic, that we end up not really paying attention to our community. I mean, these communities, and I mean, I'm guilty of it. I think we're all guilty of it. Like, we just see them and it's like, no, I don't give them money because whatever. Like, you just come up with 1,000 different excuses, and then you put all of them into one bubble. At least I should be speaking for mine. So I put all homeless people, when I see them, into just one large lump sum of human beings. And granted, I've housed homeless people before, but only because I had you a friend to vouch for them. Like, if I didn't know Frederick, if I didn't know him, and you had just and I just met him on the side of the road, I wouldn't house him. I wouldn't even think to house him. But just the fact that he knew you, and that's not like that's the problem with homelessness, is that you don't know anyone that can give you a home. Like, so if we just keep pushing them off to the side and think like, oh, they'll figure it out, or it's just the problem is just going to keep getting worse. So,
And I watch, and I want to ask you this. It's like, at what point should a person get tired? Because it's like you're gonna watch people suffer, and like, how long do you think that you could last as like, well, once a week? Let's say you went once a week to volunteer for homelessness. How long? I could not last, man, maybe a month, maybe.
yeah,
And I'm really concerned about the problem. I just want to do something else than have to actually go deal with it. Jesus.
right.
Because you're going to watch them suffer, and you're going to. It's the same. It's the same struggle that you have with some, with any person. It's like, I don't understand why you're doing this thing to hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like the essence of it, what to me, it's a mental health thing. Off the muscle, it's a mental health thing, because there are too many layers of anxiety to not call it a mental health crisis. I think homelessness is a mental health crisis, because what it says to me is this person no longer knows how to take care of themselves, and that to me is about mental health. I am lost. I lost my way. Um, and I think that as an actor who is always looking for work, I'll never have a full time job. It's like I'll always be under contract. I'll never, until I book a show that is Friends. I'll never have, like a reoccurring. Yeah, I'm always be looking for it. So I'm well aware of that anxiety of needing work. I gotta work. I gotta work, because if I don't work and if I don't eat, then like no one's gonna take care of me. And eventually my parents are gonna be gone, my family's gonna be so yeah, man. Um I think that what we're doing right now is great. I think that movies about homelessness and TV shows, I think that's all great, man. But I think what it really boils down to is us as a community thinking that we are already doing something by paying our taxes, because that is, I mean, think about it. That's what most wealthy people are gonna tell you. I pay my taxes for everything,
Mm,
so I know that I'm doing my part.
mm.
And if you're not paying attention to where that money goes, we got to pay attention to it. We got to pay attention to that. We got to pay attention to the people, because you can just look and be like, all right, I paid my taxes last year. What's going on over here? Nothing. Because it's a bigger problem than just throwing money at it, and it's a bigger problem than just throwing homes at it. It is. It is 24 hours, man. This movie that I watched is called The Advocate or The Advocates. These people go out with homeless people every single day, and they help them with stuff as simple as groceries, all the way down to like how to sign their first lease, getting a job, and it's not an overview. It's ground floor in their homes, at their jobs.
Mm.
It's 24 hours. These people are on call 20, and that's their
Is it a
job.
documentary?
It is. It came out in 2018. Unfortunately, it's 2021 and everything is still the same. So I mean,
Mm.
you can watch it and like it'll feel like 2021. But it's about LA, and it's about three different organizations and what they do to try to help with the homelessness problem in Los Angeles.
Word.
Yep, and the the volunteers don't look like I thought. I thought the volunteers was always gonna be these, older white people who had nah, man. A lot of times volunteers are young white people, young white kids,
Mm.
like who probably know their privilege and are therefore trying to do something for people who are underprivileged.
Mm.
And I, just like advocacy in the sense that like we don't all have to do the same thing. You don't have to go volunteer. And I know, when we start talking about homelessness, the first thing we want to think is soup kitchens. Let's go to a soup kitchen.
Mm. Mm.
But what you did, is a great way to help. To sometimes say, okay, I'm pretty sure there's an organization right around the corner that deals with homelessness in my community.
Mm. Mm.
I may not want to do a soup kitchen, but I may be able to help people with interview skills.
Mm.
Uh, I may be able to, what I really want to invest in? A dream that I have is gardens. I want people to be able to eat without having to beg.
Mm.
I'd like to invest in plots of land where, this is your garden.
Mm.
If you can keep this up, you'll always have something to eat. And if nothing else, this this piece of dirt in this plot can keep you alive for X amount of time, grow these vegetables. Hey, you might have to be vegan because it's literally plant based, but I
That would be cool, man. Like, what do you think about an idea like there's a garden and there's a kitchen, right? And the deal is that the chef will make whatever plants you come and bring him
mm,
or her.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? So you got the chefs that they can talk about the food that's on the plot of land, and then the homeless people can just show up like, hey, I got these tomatoes. Okay, great. Go out, go get the tomatoes, cut them up, make some salsa. We got some chips. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of have a whole little situation. Yeah.
yeah, situation. I think that's real, man. My question would be, what to you is well, not to you per se, but like the question is, how can you get a person to till a garden that won't wash their own ass?
Well, they
Like,
don't necessarily have to till it. Like the garden is upkept. It's like an arboretum, right? But
so
you got to be homeless.
garden.
Say again?
We keep the garden.
Yeah, we keep the garden, but it's for whoever wants to eat. Like, you're homeless, you come and you gotta be homeless just like at a homeless shelter, but it's, I guess, a different take on a homeless shelter. Um or a soup kitchen, I mean.
Yeah, so like you said, it's an arboretum. The community keeps the garden up, and if you get on hard times, you can eat from this garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was dope.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that all ideas are welcome.
Word.
And I think that having the funding to go behind them is what my next like sort of goal in my life is to be able to say that I have this money right here, and it's not taxes.
Mm-hmm.
It's money that I'm dedicating to this thing. Um, but I also want to know who in my community locally I can just hit up and find out where the money is, because it's money being allocated to homelessness. There's
Yeah.
money being allocated to programs and all sorts of like little special things. Like, come over here and we're gonna give you a free apartment and like food and furnish it for you and help you find a job. All sorts of that kind of stuff is going on.
What's up?
The feed went away.
I'm still here and I can still see you.
I can't see you.
I can see you.
Hmm.
So, hello. Hello, I'm here.
That seems crazy. Um, but yeah,
Well, we're coming up on an hour, or we're at an hour. Actually, we just hit an hour, 2 minutes past. Um, how you feel? What you want to leave the people with in terms of
it's just I want to leave the people with it's just like advocacy. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to start a weekly mission for food. There's probably an organization right up the street from you that is already dealing with homelessness. And if you Google homeless volunteering near you, you're gonna get a bunch of stuff. So that's one way to help. But I also think that paying attention to people right now that you probably come in contact with or see all the time, and it's just paying attention. It's not paying them financially. You don't have to give them a bunch of time. Um, but if you decide to, it could be the changing in a person's mentality, and a lot of these people need to be heard and helped. And I know we don't want to. I know we don't want to because I personally don't want to. But I know that that comes from a place of chasing money. I've been chasing money my whole life because that is what I was told that we needed to live here. And sometimes I hate it here. Sometimes I hate it here in this country because I feel like, man, I just want to spend time with my mom or spend time with my sister, and I gotta go make this money because if I don't, I'm gonna be on the street. And you know, there are literally people we talk about living paycheck to paycheck, but the reason that they are is because we are allowing our economy to get out of hand.
mm,
We're allowing the prices of things to skyrocket, and the amount of money that we're making or generating, the jobs, especially right now in the pandemic, it's not adding up. The numbers don't add up. To say you're going to charge someone $1,500 a rent across the board in a state like Los Angeles, right, in a city like Los Angeles right now, um, is why you have a huge exodus of people now going to Houston, going to Dallas, going to wherever else they can be.
mm.
And that is a problem, and it can be remedied by less greed, by just paying attention and saying the numbers aren't adding up. Minimum wage isn't high enough for people to have homes. Minimum wage isn't high enough for people to even rent in certain areas. People can't even rent. Certain groups, whole groups of people can't rent in San Francisco, another place with a huge homeless problem. Because normal people, you know, and what I mean by normal is the average amount of money that Americans make, can't afford to live there. But they work there, so they commute from Oakland, which is across a bridge of water, to San Francisco. And I've experienced this firsthand, man. You know, it's like none of the black people that I met in San Francisco lived in San Francisco. They all lived in Oakland. And it was because things were cheaper there, things were like affordable there, and even there, people had to start moving further and further away from the bridge that connected them to San Francisco. You know, it's like,
yeah.
What are tech companies doing to San Francisco where they can pay people so much money that they can just move everybody else out? That's what's happening. You know, it's Silicon Valley is pricing people out of San Francisco.
Wow.
And things like that is just, it's irresponsible. That to me, that's irresponsible economics. It's like, I know that the money can be made, but if the money isn't being allocated to help the people that are less fortunate, and the financial divide is just growing and growing and growing, the gap is just growing and growing, you know, soon, man, everybody's gonna be poor, and it's gonna be like 5 uber rich people, and we're gonna be in a fucking movie.
Well, I think I hope I'm one of those 5 uber rich people and I can help the rest of the world.
You know, one of
Word.
members, but yeah, man, I think, you know, the same way that we're paying attention to, and that's why I brought it up as a topic, because I think the same way we're paying attention to the climate and what we eat, and you know, everything. We should also be paying attention to homelessness, because even during the pandemic, man, the amount of homeless people is increasing, and the kinds of homeless people, homeless people are getting younger, and they're just growing. The numbers are just growing. So,
Word, man. Is there some place we can send people to if they want to continue this conversation or continue this to do something about it?
I'd say there's a movie called Bliss that's really good that people can check out. I would say see Advocate. It's called The Advocates. It's on Apple Plus or Apple TV, whatever. $3.99 on it. And I think that yeah, man, maybe I need to have a conversation.
You there? I think I might have lost him. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been so awesome having you guys here on another episode of The Devil's Advocate. We will catch you next week where we'll be talking about Juneteenth Jamboree. Take it easy, y'all.